So let's go through the deep knowledge. So Vatican. Watch this. Let me just, so we're clarifying this here on why this is here. Because this was, to me, it blew me because I was like, I was deep in conspiracy. So I'm like, shit, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But I didn't know what I was talking about. So that doesn't help. Okay. So watch this. So we know that this is the inside of the Vatican. And we know that this looks like a snake, right? And we know that, and they know that. But what doesn't make sense right away is, as a Catholic, though, I think this would be a little overboard for me. If I was a Catholic, I'd be like, so you guys haven't really explained the serpent thing in Catholicism, except for the serpent being the bad guy. So why do you guys have a building that is shaped like a serpent? I'm not being a Catholic anymore. And just for the sheer fact that we're not in a reality that does that, lets you know something's up. Something's up. It's like, how do you there's millions of Catholics and they just, no questions. Okay. So that's rule number one is, don't expect for other operatives in the matrix to give you signals to what's going on and what you should be doing, because the penetration of the control is that thick. If the dictionary, as I said, it's not a racial thing, but if the dictionary says black means white, but everybody thinks black is the dark color, time out. But the dictionary says blanco means this. So it's like, okay, how do we all just not come in agreement? So that's the first sign to you about like the zombieism and that kind of thing. That's the first sign to you, is that even the most obvious, most common sense things just blow by them. So also you can kind of gauge how many other things have people really been blowing by. And then right after a while, that's why I say, don't listen to people really. If they saying something about you, they don't even know about all this stuff, so they're not on point. So why should you be listening to them? That's just from me to you, because you'll go through that process where you'll start really caring what other people say about you. As long as you're in tune and you're on point, stay the course and don't let their noise and all that actually affect what's going on with you, because they're not catching the obvious. So the reason why this is like this, because this is also to prove to us that someone has taken something that they definitely don't know how to operate. And this is because the Vatican is coming from the word vatis, which means a diviner, the vatis, right? It means a diviner. And then can, which we went through over the last few strongs, means serpent. So we know that the Vatican as a word means the divining serpent. And according to Mama Zogby, she says that underneath the Vatican, or the Vatican is built on top of the ancient mounds where the Sibyl priestesses were originally conducting their oracular displays. So when people wanted to know what was going on, they would go to the oracle, just like in the Matrix. And in the oracle, who was a divining serpent, okay? And this is they need to be very clear here, because we need to be very clear, and we've gone over all this. Why does a serpent seem to have the ability, even from a symbolism level, to know everything that's going on or to tell the future? For the most basic level, it is because the serpents do not have ears. So they use their entire body as an ear, and they pick up all of the vibrations, especially on the astral plane, because they're naturally tuned into the astral plane. So even when an earthquake's going to happen 200 years from now, the serpent can feel it now, because all of those things are just vibrations or energies or frequencies. Actions are vibrations, energies, and frequencies. So the chosen ones were tapping into that vibration and frequency. This also can be seen as in the biblical tradition as Moses, because Moses was the one that was talking to God. But Moses is MSS, which basically means the muses. Moses probably didn't exist. It was actually the muses or the sibyls or these females that had this connection with this divining serpent that could tell you things that would inspire you about the future. Or in every respect, those who were muses were inspired themselves with the energy and would pass that energy on to others. Okay, so just understanding the ancient settings. And this is also why the Vatican, once they usurped the matriarch, they still continue to issue canons. Because if you start investigating this word canon, this is what I taught you how to do with the code to the matrix, to take certain words and let the word tell you completely the story, and then get done with the story before you move on to something else. So let's say, for instance, this word can, which we know means serpent. We can then move, or let's say, yeah, we can say it means serpent or snake. We can then move on from SER, because we know that what that means, but we can move back to can, because can is a more of a cloaked word, because we don't know generally in the reality that can or kan, to pronounce it correctly, means a serpent, right? And also society is not forthcoming at telling you either, especially in the dictionary, because if we look up here, just very briefly, I'll show my notes. The origin of the word cancer, because this is why I was going through the cans, and I was like, okay, well, let's see what they say the word can means. And this says in the Greek, these words refer to a crab, most likely applied to the disease, because the finger-like spreading projections of a cancer called in the mind the shape of a crab, called to mind the shape of a crab. The Roman physician Celsus later translated the Greek term into cancer, the Latin word for crab. In so many words, they have no intentions of telling the truth. They know damn well the word can does not have anything to do with the word crab. I mean, there definitely are in the can kingdom crabs that live there as far as in the ocean, but they are not really related from an etymological level. But the reality is that word cancer is actually a reference to two different types of serpents. So let's go through really briefly the word can to really see what it's saying about the reality. So we have candy. So we begin with candy, cane, and Canaan. Now, interesting, I put candy, cane together and didn't even notice that. They actually are two words that go together, right? But more importantly, Canaan begins with can, and we saw Canaan as canines for a while, that there were dog-faced people even coming from Canaan, but there was a misconception there, because we need to understand that that's what it is with dogs, is that dogs, along with human beings, along with anything else that has that spine, is all being constructed from, originally the composite is a serpent. So even dogs are a certain type of serpent. So we go further and we start realizing as it starts taking you into the reality of what the reality is. It's a canopy. Okay. So we take this word canopy and we hearken to these pictures where you see this hooded cobra hanging over Krishna or hanging over some of the gods and the goddesses, right? Like it's a canopy that's covering them. Okay. Watch what it's saying. Then we also have this canoe, right? So this canoe, when you're sitting in this canoe is basically like covering you, like a canoofus. Also, when you're in a canyon, you're in you're in a canyon. It's a gulch, basically. You're in there and it's around you. Or a canister, where basically this is a container that holds things inside of it. Or the most popular use of the word can, which is a thing that's holding something inside of it, like fruit, peaches. And then we have canvas, which is the most telling word, where you literally start with the blank one, but basically everything that is on the canvas becomes the world that you're living in. So do you see how this is how they were saying that language is like a fractal, and you would basically be able to reverse engineer the entire story of what is going on Earth if you could just crack some power words or major words in this. And as you just read in the Maru or in the Queen Mu works, that the beings that were running everything were called Can. So you can take the word and you can kind of run with it. And then now let's look into the reality and say, could what we're actually in be a larger spirit? Because at the end of the day, it's easier to see it not just as a serpent, like we see a serpent running around in the reality, but actually the notion of a spirit itself, a large spirit, that as we realize that the word derma and dream were connected, and that the skin on the skin on us correspond to a serpent, that basically what you would be in is almost like a holographic projector, but an organic one, that the skin on the serpent itself is like a liquid crystal display with the canvas of the reality and all of that all weaved into it in a three-dimensional way. Where, as Jeanette mentioned today, and I agree, there are portals all through it, some larger, some smaller, where consciousness, energies, and all types of things, they're constantly interweaving and exiting it. And all this is going on around you. And because there's a disconnection between your internal masculine and feminine, it's you lack the ability to kind of merge the picture. So that way you can kind of see the true picture. You kind of are seeing like the double, right? And then when you merge them together, you start seeing how things are connected.